Hi guys, thank you for clicking on this video. My name's Aisha and this is aishaleeanntalks. So the situation that we're going to be talking about today really got to me because we're going to be talking about one of my biggest passions in life, and that is animals. So when I heard about this situation, I really couldn't help myself but to go down the rabbit hole and research absolutely everything. And the things that I found out have really made my head spin, and I have quite a lot of opinions on this one. So today we're going to be talking about the two dogs that were shot earlier this month, May 2023, by the Metropolitan Police in London. Now I can imagine a lot of you have probably already heard about this because it was filmed and circulated around social media. But just in case you didn't know, on the 7th of May this month, 2023, officers were filmed in an altercation with a man and his two dogs, after reports that his dogs had mauled a woman not long before. This situation escalated quite quickly, with one of the dogs being shot, then the owner was tasered and wrestled to the ground. The second dog was then also shot. This all happened while screaming witnesses stared down from their balconies in the surrounding flats, absolutely mortified at what they were witnessing. Researching this story, this has been the first story that has actually made me cry, which is quite a difficult task considering my trauma brain. But watching the video, of those two dogs, that was absolutely horrific. And although I cannot show the full uncensored version of the video on YouTube, so I won't be showing the full uncensored version, this video is still going to have some pretty distressing content. So this is your trigger warning. You know, we are talking about two dogs being shot, so it can be quite sensitive, and I will be showing the video of it, just not uncensored. I'm going to have to censor it all because obviously otherwise they won't let it on YouTube. So let's talk about the situation from the very beginning. On Sunday the 7th of May 2023, a 46-year-old man named Louis Turnbull was out in the streets of London with his two Staffordshire Bull Terriers, Marshall and Millions. Louis was homeless and he was staying in a boat which was moored in a canal nearby to where he was out with his dogs. Now this is quite important. Louis had his dogs on a lead, which had one dog attached to one side of the lead and then the other dog attached to the other side of the lead, so that Louis could then hold the lead in the middle. So essentially the two dogs were tied together. Now Louis was sat in the street with his dogs. He wasn't really paying much attention. I don't think he had hold of the lead, and a woman was walking down the road with her dog. She got tangled up in the dog's leads, and one of Louis's dogs attacked the woman's dog. She got kind of caught up in the mess and ended up falling over. A shop owner who witnessed the incident said, "I can tell you for a fact that that dog didn't attack a woman. It attacked another dog, a little brown dog. Me and another woman came out when we heard what was going on and took the dog away. I was scared going to get it, but it didn't attack me or the woman." He added, "I don't think the woman who owned the dog got attacked by the dogs, but she did get tangled in the lead and fell over. Their owner is homeless, I believe, and he didn't do anything to help. He was too high or something to do anything." After this altercation, the shop owner then went back to work, and after hearing that the dogs had been shot, he said, "I heard the shots, and when I found out, I was so sad about it. I couldn't sleep. I was so sad. I see those dogs every day. They are always with their owner. About 20 minutes before, I was petting them. They have never seemed aggressive before." There is a video that's been going around which shows the very tail end of this altercation, but when you watch the video, I mean, it is quite clear that this is the very end of an altercation and you can't really see much. So as you can see, she's running away from him, screaming hysterically, and if we go by what the shop owner says, obviously there was a whole altercation before this point, so we don't really see what happened from this video. The woman was said to have suffered an injury to her leg, but she didn't require any hospital treatment. Now, this injury would have been caused when she fell over. The woman's husband came out afterwards to say that his wife was absolutely mortified by the killings. He said, "My wife was traumatized by what happened to the two dogs. We both were. She didn't want the dogs to get killed. For us, a dog's life matters as much as a human's." Now, I just want to pause a minute and think about this from the point of view of the dogs. Now, if I've got this right in my head, okay, you've got two dogs that are attached to each other, yeah? and you've got a woman walking down the road and she gets tangled in the dog's leads. Now, if you're a dog, you're attached to your brother and your lead jolts, you get confused. You know, that's quite triggering as it is. And then all of a sudden you're tangled, so you can't move, you're restricted, and then you see another dog. I can completely understand how that dog ended up turning and switching on the other dog. Now, the owner should have been there to stop that from happening, but you can't really blame the dog too much for this. This is a natural dog behaviour. Now, obviously, the woman ended up tripping over and a stranger ended up coming to take the dogs away. This would have been even more confusing for the dogs. I mean, having a stranger pull you back is possible to make the dog react even more. I mean, any dog can react under certain situations, under certain circumstances. Now, just because a dog has reacted in that situation doesn't make that dog a bad dog. That does not mean that dog is a bad dog. One of my dogs can be reactive. Like in that situation, my dog probably would have done the exact same thing. And I wouldn't blame him for doing something that's a natural dog behaviour, you know. That doesn't mean he's a bad dog. He's a wonderful dog. But he has his moments. All dogs do. To be fair, everything that I've read about these two dogs, everything that I've seen of these two dogs, they seem like really good dogs. They do not seem at all aggressive. Even in the altercation, yes, they bark, but they do not seem aggressive. They're not growling, you know, they're not aggressive dogs. And you can tell that straight away, they are not aggressive dogs. Now, somebody obviously saw this altercation and called the police, and they told the police that the woman had been attacked by the dog. The police then came out and they tracked down this woman and they spoke to the woman. But there were at least seven police officers. I think there were more because there were others closing off the street as well. So there are at least 7 officers at this altercation. So I would presume that when the police were called, one lot of officers went to go and search for the woman and another lot of officers, including the dog handlers and the armed officers, would have gone looking for these dogs. The reason I've come to this conclusion is because all of the reports say that the police were responding to a report of a woman being mauled, and that the police officers that were there during the altercation were under the impression that a woman had been attacked. Now, before I continue, there is something else that we really need to take note of. And this is something that was found out after the incident. It's come up a few times in a few of the articles because obviously Louis went to court. But Louis actually had a ban on owning dogs because of previous dog-related crimes. I don't know what he had done. There are a lot of rumours, but I can't, cross-reference. I can't find the truth of any of it. But I would presume that it's something to do with owning dangerous dogs. That's the rumour. But again, that could be false. I don't know. I can't find exactly what happened. But he is banned from owning dogs, which means realistically, by law, he shouldn't have had these dogs in the first place. So this man obviously knows that if the police take his dogs, he ain't never going to get them back, and he's not going to want that to happen. Louis later claimed that he was trying to walk the dogs back to his boat, get the dogs on the boat to come out and speak to the officers afterwards, which I believe is probably true. But under the circumstances, it doesn't matter if he'd have got the dogs to the boat or not, the police probably would have wanted to take those dogs anyway. Now, if Louis loved those dogs, which I'm sure he did, I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that he loved those dogs to bits, he would do anything he can to try and keep them, he would fight for them, clearly. I mean, I'd fight for my dogs. A video came out of Louis on the train with his dogs, and in this video you can really see how much, his dogs loved him and he loved them. So there's no way that he was just going to hand those dogs over, and he's clearly either drunk or on something as well. So I would probably bear that in mind when watching these clips. So to begin with, I'm just going to show you a clip of the lead up to the shooting. I will show you a censored clip of the actual shooting in a moment.
The drama. Oh. Oh. Whole neighbourhood has had to watch. What the hell?
What? Get yourself to fuck on it,
Very hard to pick whose side I'm on because the dogs look very scary, but also a cab.
What you're about? You set the dog. You try to fucking arrest him. What you're about? Will you shut the fuck up? I want to take the dogs and check them for any injuries. I don't want no injuries. Listen, mate. This is the only way it's going to happen. You give these dogs up. I'm not giving them up, mate. Then you're leaving us no choice.
Alright, it's kind of mean to take his dogs.
Fucking do me. Do me.
So let's go over that. So to begin with, he's walking away from the officers and the officers are shouting after him. One of the officers calls out that they need to assess the dogs, which in that circumstance, that's probably what they would have to do. You know, they've got to assess and make sure that the dogs aren't dangerous. Louis then turns around to confront the officers, and at this point the dogs are barking. Now, the dogs are barking, that's it. They're not growling, they're not lunging, they're not being aggressive, they're just barking. Like any dog would do in this situation. One of the officers must have mentioned something about the dogs being aggressive because Louis then points out, you know, that they're being quite aggressive. He is also being quite aggressive too. To be honest, I can imagine this whole situation is very, very intimidating for those poor puppies. When an officer asks Louis his name, he begins to walk off again. And at this point, the dogs are completely under control. But he then turns around and lets go of the dogs. And at this point, the dogs then lunge towards the police officers. The police officers all start backing away, and Louis then grabs hold of the lead. In the eyes of the law, the moment that Louis let go of that lead, the dogs were then no longer under control. And especially considering that the report had said that the dogs had mauled a woman, it is very, very likely that the dogs could have been seen as a threat to these officers who had absolutely no idea how wonderful and sweet these dogs really were. So the police officers had the authority to shoot the dogs then and there, but they didn't, which leads me to believe that they were not necessarily out to go and shoot the dogs, which a lot of people have been speculating and suggesting that the police officers were just out to shoot them. No, I don't think that's true. Now, the way that Louis is like yanking on the leads and how aggressive he's getting and all this kind of stuff is probably accentuating the dog's reaction. And they are barking, but you know, they're not doing anything more than what I would expect from any dog in this situation. Again, my boys are lovely, well-behaved boys, but put them in the situation that Marshall and Millions were in that situation there, and they would have probably been 10 times worse than them. Those two dogs, I'm telling you now, those two dogs were good dogs. When Louis tries to calm the dogs down, they actually calm down pretty quickly for a moment, and that's another reason why I say, like, these dogs were really good dogs. It's only when Louis is showing aggression that the dogs then start barking, and that's only because they're mimicking and protecting their owner. One of the officers then calls out saying that if he doesn't hand the dogs over, then he's going to give them no choice. And considering the previous conversation and how he reacts afterwards, I would presume that that meant that he would give them no choice but to shoot the two dogs. Louis is then practically swinging these poor dogs around and screaming at the officers, going, go on then, being really quite aggressive. So at this point in time, he's already let the dogs go once. He's been warned if he doesn't let the dogs hand the dogs over that they're going to get shot. And he's still screaming and shouting and getting aggressive. And then he proceeds to let go of one of the dogs. And the second he lets go of that dog's lead, the dog is shot. Louis then gets tasered and wrestled to the ground, and the second dog also gets shot. I'm now going to show you a censored clip of the shooting, and I will explain what happened afterwards. I'm not going to show the actual clip, obviously, because YouTube wouldn't allow it, and it would probably traumatize a lot of people. I mean, it made me cry. It really made me cry. Now, if you don't want to watch this clip, I completely understand. I will leave a timestamp here for you to skip past.
Alright, it's kind of mean to take his dogs.
Fucking do me! Do me! Go on!
Why would you shoot the dog? I think they killed it. I think they killed it.
Find the water, find the water. Go. You Stay there. Get away.
What is that? They just killed the dogs. And they've tasered that guy.
They killed the dog.
They killed the dogs.
Why?
Just because the dogs, they were barking at them like that's so normal.
You're disgusting! Don't.
I know this video is hard to watch, probably even without knowing what happened, but I am going to explain to you what's going on behind that bubble. Now again, if you don't want to hear the details, I will leave another timestamp and you can skip past. So Louis is in a standoff with the police and he's swinging the dogs around, screaming, "Go on then," and he let go of one of the dogs. And before he even had the opportunity to try and grab for that lead, a shot was fired and the dog died instantly. Louis then dragged the dog's body towards him. I think it took him a moment to realise what had happened. And the other dog was stood literally right next to him, facing the opposite way, not posing any threat whatsoever. Louis then stepped towards the police who taser him, and he then backs away, tries to run away from them, and the dog handler manages to get the other dog in the catch pole. Now this dog is absolutely losing his mind. You can hear him going crazy, and the handler lets go of the dog. I don't think this was on purpose. It looks like the dog just managed to escape. I mean, he is going absolutely batshit, and the dog then runs towards the owner, who's being pinned by multiple police officers, and the armed officer comes after the dog. The dog's literally attached to this other dog. It's horrific. He's dragging the other dog behind him. It's horrible. And the police officer comes behind and shoots him as he runs away. Louis was then arrested and he was charged on dangerous dog offences and for being in possession of a dog while disqualified. Now, because it was caught on camera, news of what had happened spread like wildfire and so many people saw this clip. But because obviously social media platforms won't allow the uncensored clip, you only really get to see so much. You can't really see what's happening. I'm sure a lot of people have probably seen bits of this clip, but not necessarily all of it. But understandably, this video has upset a lot of people and it has caused mass outrage in the community. I mean, like I said, it made me cry watching it. It was a hard video to watch. An eyewitness told the BBC that she couldn't believe the police had resorted to shooting the two dogs. The woman said, "I don't think the dogs looked aggressive. They were wagging their tails. The way of dealing with this, with guns in the middle of the street, with us sitting on our balcony watching this, it just doesn't feel safe." A witness who filmed the incident from the other side of the canal said, "I heard some shouting and commotion. We went to the window, saw a man with his two dogs being followed by a lot of police officers. Another police officer was shouting at people to walk down, essentially clearing the path on the canal. The police and the man went back and forth for a bit. At first he was walking away. Then he stopped and faced them. Then they shot the dogs. I felt really shaken. I was crying. I'd never seen a living thing get shot in real life. I was so shocked. I didn't know police could carry loaded guns outside the City of London or the financial district. I think it's disgusting that the instinctive thing to do was to shoot the dogs instead of sedate them. It makes me think that if that man would have charged towards them, they would have shot him point blank instead of restraining him or trying to de-escalate the situation. We've seen how police shoot at people instead of de-escalating situations. It's fundamentally wrong. Somebody else who filmed the scene said, "This stopped me in my tracks and it is very upsetting. There had to be a way of containing the dogs instead of shooting them." In a Facebook Live post a couple of days after the shooting, Louis told his supporters, "This is really difficult for me and I'm really struggling with it. I've had them since they were puppies, and to have them taken away like that right in front of my face, shot, and I'm covered in the dog's blood, it was just so disgusting." Police commentator Graham Wetton said that he had spoken to dog handlers that were equally unhappy about the situation, although he did point out that the police were responding to reports of a woman being attacked by a dog, and although the woman didn't need hospital treatment, the police didn't actually know that at the time. He said, "They've got one of the dogs under control, who's then escaped that dog catcher and is then going towards the back of the officers who are dealing with the owner. At that point, you've got to react straight away. I'm sure the officers didn't want to act in the way that they did. It looks really distressing." In response to this incident, on the 11th of May, a vigil organised by Animal Rising's director Dan Kidby was held outside Scotland Yard, the London Police headquarters. This vigil was attended by over 200 people, and people were holding up placards saying things like "Dogs are people too and deserve a trial," and "Man's best friend shot in the street, there will be no effing peace." There's a video online of a few people talking at this vigil. I will show you a couple of clips.
Hello guys, I'd like to thank everyone coming today. Me and my partner Jade are family members from Marshall Williams. What happened was absolutely tragic and wrong by every account recordable by the Met Police. It was not conducted professionally. They did not do their job properly. They're not professionals, The Met Police did not conduct. Dog killers, is what happened. On this day though, I'd like to remember Marshall Williams, that's why we're here, I'd like everyone to try and light a candle, everyone to put your hands up in the air please, And everyone just for 30 seconds,
Rest in peace, Marshall Williams.
Thank you guys. I'd like to let my partner say a few words, as she's also a family member to Marshall Williams, and thank you.
Right, so basically, Marshall was the oldest one, known him since he was a pup, like, small in my arms, good as gold, like, you walk him, like, take him off a lead and that, he don't bother no one, like, he was good, everything, like, he just wanted to, like, he was interested in the world, like, he wanted to know what, like, leaves were and twigs, and he didn't even care about people, he didn't want to know who people were, he just wanted to know what nature was like. It was a gentle giant, Marshall, like, he got on his back legs, he's up on my shoulders, like, he just give me cuddles, like, Mills, he wasn't even a year old, mate, like
9 months old,
9
months.
He wasn't even a fucking year old, and that's what they do to them, like, you see they were the most loving dogs in the world, you see, like, you can get a chihuahua, and they are more dangerous than what them two dogs were, and you get, exactly, that's what it was, them dogs, they were good as gold, they could, like, you walk him in the streets, the kids are going up to him, trying to stroke him, like, Mills loved it, all he wanted to do was play with people, he was a puppy, he didn't know anything else, like, he did not know nothing, all he wanted to do was play, and like, and he learned off his older brother, that's what he done, he followed Marshall's lead, and Marshall, he was good, and that's all I can say, I wouldn't be, you know what I mean, like, rest in peace, boys. We love you.
Never forget, we love you, boys.
And now, like, I think you should come up and say a few words for the boys. Now we get Daddy up here.
Daddy has to say. Come on, little boy.
I'm sorry, but this is really difficult for me, like, and I'm struggling with it, like.
We feel for you, man.
I've had them since they were puppies, and then, like, for them to be taken away like that, right in front of my face, like, shot, like, I'm covered in the dog's blood, like, it was just so disgusting, like, all I was trying to do was get them back in the boat, and then I was going to come out and speak to the police. But they weren't having it, man. They pulled like all their weapons, and they were intimidating me and the dogs, and all they were doing was trying to like protect me. You know what I mean? I had them on the lead. I was pulling them away.
They felt like they was in danger, yeah?
Yeah, like
The police set out to kill them.
they just
set out to kill them.
they murdered them.
They came out to kill
They
them.
murdered them two dogs.
Dan Kidby, the person who organised this event, said to the crowd, "The Casey report has changed absolutely nothing. The police have continued to act out of line with their job to serve and protect us all, now resulting in the shooting of two beautiful dogs who hours before were happy and full of life. We're here to show that as a community we will stand together and be peaceful and defiant in the face of injustice. We stand with everyone saddened and outraged by the murder of two dogs in Poplar on Sunday. We believe a kinder and better world is possible." People have been absolutely outraged by this incident, but I don't think people actually quite realise that this is not a one-off thing. This is not the first time something like this has happened, and this stuff kind of happens regularly. Now, not to take anything away from this situation, but I want to tell you all about something kind of similar that happened in a cul-de-sac around the corner from me in Bristol that was never reported on. Now, this happened about 3.5 years ago. There was a family that had 4 children, aged 3 to 8, and 2 dogs. A male named Paws, who was called Paws because he was just this huge, clumsy goofball with gigantic paws. And they had a female named Xena. These dogs were family dogs. They'd play out in the street with the kids, you know, they were not aggressive at all. They were just 2 happy and carefree dogs. Unfortunately, neither of these dogs had been neutered or spayed, and at the time of this incident, Xena was on heat. Now, the family were trying to take every precaution they could to keep the 2 dogs apart at this point in time, but somehow Paws managed to get in to Xena and they ended up mating. Quick side note, Xena ended up getting pregnant from this, and she actually gave birth to her puppies on Christmas Day. Now, once they'd got the 2 dogs apart, Paws went into a kind of frenzy. Now, he was going absolutely nuts. Now, not aggressive kind of nuts, just crazy kind of nuts. Think extreme zoomies. We've all seen when dogs get the zoomies and they go absolutely crazy. Yeah, just an extreme version of the zoomies. Now, during this frenzy, Paws managed to jump the fence and was running around in the street. People were out in the street trying to catch him, and he was just dodging everybody left, right and centre. He was probably having the absolute time of his life. To be fair, this dog was probably loving it. I will keep saying this, he was not showing any signs of aggression. You know, he was just being a bit of a lunatic. But because Paws was part pit bull, you know, this put some people on edge. So when the neighbours saw, you know, a big scary pit bull running around the street causing trouble, they rang the police. The police then turned up with armed officers and a dog handler. The dog handler attempted to catch Paws with the catch pole, but after multiple failed attempts, they just closed the street and they shot Paws dead. So this is another story of an innocent dog doing what dogs do, being shot by the police for it. I've also personally overheard a police officer threatening to taser a Jack Russell. So I used to live in this block of flats and my next door neighbour had a Jack Russell. The police had come to arrest them. I don't know what for, but the police had come out and the Jack Russell was barking at the police officers and the woman was out of her face. The police officers were telling her, get your dog. If you don't get your dog, we're going to tase it. Like, I was this close myself to going and getting that dog myself, like, to stop that from happening. Thankfully, she picked up the dog because I could overhear it all. But like, if she hadn't picked up that dog, I was not going to allow that to happen. I was like literally on my feet, ready to go and pick that thing up. Like, the police will not hesitate to taser or shoot your dog. The Dangerous Dogs Act 1991 banned 4 breeds and made it a criminal offence for any dog to be dangerously out of control. And because dogs are seen as property, they can be destroyed and or seized on the spot. Even if a dog is the best behaved dog in the world, if the police officers think that there's a minute possibility that this dog could be a threat to somebody, they have the authority to destroy it on scene, which essentially means shoot it dead. After the 2 dogs in London were shot, a makeshift memorial turned up at the scene, which had like loads of flowers and dog toys, and there was a handwritten note left on the wall. The note said, "In memory of the 2 beloved dogs who were tragically shot dead by the Metropolitan Police on the 7th of May 23. A petition on change.org to hold the Met Police criminally accountable for their actions has reached over 1 million signatures. This has actually become one of the top signed petitions on the site. This petition says, "The Metropolitan Police are trying to justify the barbaric killings of 2 dogs in Tower Hamlets, London on the afternoon of Sunday the 7th of May. In a statement, the Met Police claimed the aggressive behaviour of the dogs was of considerable concern and posed a significant threat to them, yet concrete video evidence all over social media shows these dogs to be under control and on leads with their owner. Yes, these dogs are barking and reacting to the police, but any normal dog would do the same when being approached by multiple armed vocal people in uniform, surrounding them in such a threatening manner. They continue to claim in their statement that these dogs were dangerously out of control, and yet again, video evidence shows this not to be the case. The dogs even immediately calm down when their owner asks them to. So why then is it acceptable for the police to not only taser their owner, but to shoot and kill both dogs at close range? One of which seemingly doesn't die straight away either, and is left to suffer on the canal path while shocking onlookers are left screaming. And why does one police officer who has 1 dog secure in the catchpole then choose to release that dog and let it run back to his owner, only to be shot as it runs away?" Then there are a couple of links to the videos and a couple of bullet points. Both dogs are leashed and under control. Neither dog is dangerously out of control. Neither dog posed a significant threat. There is no solid evidence of what the dogs have been accused of doing. The police had no right to take matters into their own violent hands without proper and thorough investigation. If need be, these dogs could have been sedated / humanely seized, and the relevant authorities could have properly looked into the situation. Both dogs were acting in a perfectly acceptable way for the situation, both barking at a very real and frightening threat. 7 armed, vocal and menacing people advancing towards them. The second dog is in an understandable state of panic, still posing no threat and trying to escape the situation. One officer restrains the second dog using a catchpole and for some reason chooses to needlessly release the panicked dog as if to try and provoke a negative reaction. The terrified dog chooses to run away back to its owner, and another officer pursues the dog and brutally shoots the dog from behind at close range while it's trying to get away. Officers then pat each other on the back, and one is seen quickly pulling his mask up over his face after realising they're being filmed. The owner was clearly very distressed and adding to the upset of his dogs, but regardless of his actions, this is about the dogs and the fact that they were inhumanely and unnecessarily slaughtered in broad daylight. This is easily one of the most disgusting, abhorrent and totally unjustifiable videos I've ever seen. And once again, the Met Police need to be held criminally accountable for their unlawful actions and their unacceptable abuse of power. The London police force then justified their actions by saying that they had a duty to act before any further injury was caused. And a spokesperson for the Metropolitan Police tweeted, "We are aware of the video being shared on social media showing part of an incident in Limehouse where 2 dogs were destroyed by police officers responding to a report of a woman being attacked. Police were called just after 1700 hours on Sunday the 7th of May to a woman being attacked on Commercial Road E14. Officers attended the location where the aggressive behaviour of 2 dogs was of considerable concern and posed a significant threat to them. A man was arrested in connection with the incident for having a dog dangerously out of control and assault offences. He has been taken into police custody after a taser was discharged by police. No person was taken to hospital. Both dogs were destroyed at the scene. This is never an easy decision for any officer to make, but police have a duty to act when necessary before any further injury is caused. The Met's Directorate of Professional Standards will review the circumstances of the incident. Then the Metropolitan's Professional Standards Unit concluded their investigation by saying, although many bystanders expressed dismay and upset at the police officer's conduct during the arrest, the Met's Directorate of Professional Standards has said that they have conducted a thorough review of the incident and are satisfied that there are no concerns around officer conduct. If I'm honest, I'm not surprised that that's what they said. But then following this, on the 12th of May, the Independent Office for Police Conduct, the IOPC, said that it is appropriate that complaints linked to the incident on the 7th of May be independently investigated. The IOPC said that it understands the public concern regarding this incident. This investigation came as 2 witnesses sent in complaints, which made it to the IOPC. Amanda Rowe, an IOPC regional director, said, "We understand the public concern regarding this incident and it is appropriate that it should be independently investigated. We will examine whether the actions of the officers were reasonable and proportionate in all of the circumstances and in line with relevant procedures." Now, I really do hope that this investigation does come back with something and something gets done about it. But the harsh reality is that it probably won't. Now, looking at the bullet points, I can see exactly what the police are going to say to try and defend their actions. Let's take a quick look at it, shall we? So the first point, the dogs are leashed and under control. The dogs are leashed, yes. But the moment that he let go of the dog's lead, the dogs, by law, were no longer under control. The second point, neither dog is dangerously out of control. Well, the first dog lunged towards the officers, which the officers could see as being dangerously out of control. The second dog, although it's running back to its owner is being restrained by officers, so it is running towards the officers. They will defend that to the grave because they were acting before the dog attacked an officer. Don't get me wrong, personally, in that situation, I would have took the fucking bite. Screw it. Like, I don't care. Bite me. I would rather the dog bite me than the dog get shot. But the officers are trained to act before anything happens. Point number 3. Neither dog posed a significant threat. Anyone that knows dog behaviour, well, would agree with that. I completely agree with that neither of those dogs posed a threat. But these officers are going on training and instinct. They're not looking at dog behaviours. They're looking at their training and instinct. And in that situation, they could have seen the dogs as a threat. Then obviously the next couple of points are completely undisputable. There is no solid evidence of what these dogs have been accused of doing. The police had no right to take matters into their own violent hands without a proper and thorough investigation. Well, from what we can tell, they didn't do what they had initially been accused of, which means that they were innocent. The next point, if need be, these dogs could have been sedated / humanely seized and the relevant authorities could have properly looked into the situation. I agree we should have done something different. I do not agree with shooting a dog in the street like that. It is absolutely horrific and despicable and it should not happen. It's disgusting. I don't know how well sedating a dog in that situation would work. It depends on how quick the drug works. I mean, personally, I don't know how long it takes for a sedation to work. You know, I presume it takes a while for the drug to get into the system. So if a dog is lunging towards you, will sedation work quick enough in that situation? I don't know. In fact, if there is a way of that being possible and sedation straight away, come on, please tell me in the comments because I am curious, actually. I don't know. Is that possible? Is there a chemical that will sedate you instantly? I mean, if there is, then damn right, that's exactly what we should be doing. The next point, again, undisputable. Both dogs were acting in a perfectly acceptable way for the situation, barking at a very real and frightening threat, 7 armed, vocal and menacing people advancing towards them. Yep, totally, I agree, completely. I think everybody will agree with that one. But then it goes on to say that the first dog didn't die straight away. I'm sorry, but I'm going to beg to differ on that. I watched that video very thoroughly. I analysed every second of that video, and both dogs, when they were shot, died instantly. The dog, the shots you can hear is not the dog being shot, it's the taser. You can hear the taser. Both dogs, as far as I could tell, got shot once each, both died instantly. That's what I could see. I mean, as I say, I watched this video, I analysed every second of this video, and as far as I could tell, the dogs died instantly. Then the next point, again, undisputable. The second dog's in an understandable state of panic, still posing no threat and trying to escape the situation. Yep, this is true. But then it goes on to say, one officer restrains the second dog using a catch pole and for some reason chooses to needlessly release the panicked dog as if trying to provoke a negative reaction. I'm sorry, you can disagree with me if you want, but watching how that dog is struggling, I'm not surprised it managed to escape. I don't believe that the dog handler intentionally released the dog. Like, I think that's a bit... no, I don't think so. I could be wrong. I mean, I think this is just people looking for more reasons to be angry. I mean, I understand it's a horrible situation, but I don't think he purposefully let go of that dog. Then the next point, obviously that's true. The terrified dog chooses to run away back to its owner, and another officer pursues the dog and brutally shoots it from behind at close range while it's trying to get away. Yeah, that's exactly what happened, basically. Yeah, that's what happened. I mean, the police are going to say that it was going towards the officers and that the officers were at risk. But essentially, yes, they pursued and shot the dog in the back while it was trying to escape them. It was horrible. And then the last point, officers then pat each other on the back and one is seen quickly pulling his mask up over his face after realising they are being filmed. I think that's probably more of a comforting gesture. I mean, I don't know. It's such a horrible situation. Like, I don't know what those officers were thinking in the moment after that incident. I really don't. I mean, I wouldn't want to put myself there, if I'm honest. So yeah, as much as this is an awful situation that should never have happened, I don't think the police are going to be held accountable. I don't. They're just not. So as much as this was an awful, awful situation that should never have happened, like this should not have been allowed to happen, I really don't think that the police are going to take responsibility or criminal accountability for the actions of the officers that day. To be honest with you, I think we'd be better off trying to change the law that allows for the police officers to do this in the first place. Because right now, it seems like no dog is safe. But yeah, so that's all for this story. Thank you for watching. I know this one was quite a hard one. I find this one really difficult myself. If you're new and you don't know what I do here, I tell hardship stories. So I tell celebrity stories, everyday people stories, I tell stories that I find in the news. So if you have a story that you'd like to share or something that you would like me to talk about, you can contact me via my email or my Facebook, which I will leave linked in the description box down below. Otherwise, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel. It is a free and easy way that you can support this channel. And until next time, please remember to look after yourselves and be kind to everybody around you, because you never know what someone else might be going through, and a little bit of kindness and compassion can go a long way. Bye bye for now.